So this is a brief introduction to the session. And since the early 1970s, Kurt Brown and Joanna LePage Brown have studied and worked in the School of the Soul that Warren Kenton founded in the Toledano tradition. Toledano refers to its lineage from the classical Spanish Kabbalah and reflects the time in medieval Toledo when Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived in peace and exchanged ideas. When Warren started running Kabbalah groups in Notting Hill, many people who loved Bishara attended, benefiting greatly from his teaching and advice. And just as developing the Kabbalah Society and teaching and writing about Kabbalah became Warren's life's work, so also it is very much Kurt's and Joanna's. Yesterday, Jo messaged me that it is exactly 50 years ago that she was in Swire Farm and was asked to run Warren Kenton down from London in her little car to give a talk. What lifetimes have passed in those years, she wrote. I still vividly remember seeing a truly luminous man giving that talk at Swire Farm. And later he presented to students on 6-month courses of the Bishara Schools of Intensive Esoteric Education at both Sherborne House and Chisholm House in the borders of Scotland. Over the years, Jo and Kurt supported and helped Warren greatly, while also setting their own course. Indeed, if I am not wrong, Warren referred to Joanna as his sister. For over 30 years, their home in South Hampstead has been a place dedicated to Kabbalistic work, where they run groups and courses, as they also do in Europe, in Africa, where Jo grew up and gained a deep interest in African spirituality, in the USA, Mexico, and Japan. In 2015, Warren entrusted and tasked Kurt and Joanna to be the facilitators of the Kabbalah Society's annual residential summer school at Hawkwood College. And in these COVID days, Kurt and Jo currently run regular Zoom groups for the international school. When Warren died, aged 87, in September 2020, Joanna wrote in his obituary in the Bishara magazine that the world had lost a visionary, wise one. I should also mention, for those not already familiar, that in September 2016, the magazine's editor, Jane Clark, who sends her apologies but is on mother duty this afternoon, and I were lucky enough to talk at length with Warren for the Bishara magazine. The article which resulted came to be titled "A Caravan on a Spiritual Silk Road," and it is available to read online. Warren's concluding sentence when asked if the Kabbalah had Abrahamic roots was, "The essential message of Kabbalah is the same as in all other traditions. It is to remember where you came from, why you are here, and what you are meant to do, which is that you are here to serve." His was a beautiful soul, willingly and gracefully serving as a connection between heaven and earth. Today, that noble caravan, naturally laden with the generosity of refined esoteric gifts, zooms into our marketplace as one of the unique events in the Bishara Trust's Unity in Diversity series. 50 years on, I am grateful for this special opportunity to gather together with friends in the shade of the tree of life, to see new meanings, to listen and to dialogue with the eternal wisdom of those the Quran singles out as the special people, those who aspire that neither buying nor selling diverts from his remembrance. It's a great title, and today I'm sure we all very warmly welcome and open our hearts and minds to Kurt and Joanna with their presentation of the mystic in the marketplace. Thank you.
Well, I was going to start with to honouring Warren, but I can't fault what David has done such a marvellous job in his introduction, really giving a bit of the history of how really Bashara and our school have travelled together. And as he said, on the caravan through the desert, on the Silk Road. So it's good to see everybody today, and we look forward to sharing just a small fraction of Kabbalah with you. It's such a vast subject that we can't possibly, we can just start with the basics, going through and also looking at how we can make it real, because our work is to be of service and to make this teaching real so it comes into our everyday life in the marketplace.
Thank you. I had the privilege, with my background, to live in this house in Greencroft with Warren, and he stayed here with us for 6 years. And I was able to watch him because I wasn't sure about the teaching. I had just started, and Providence moved him to live here. And in those 6 years, I watched him tie his shoelace. I watched him closely. And he was true to the teaching, to his word, to everything. So I am really proud and honored to have communed here in Greencroft with him and to receive the teaching which he passed on most willingly. So without further ado, let us begin. The way we begin is we have the invocation, where we invite the Holy One's presence to be with us. So I ask you to be seated as you're seated and make yourself receptive and listen. Shema. Let us begin. Let us gather together, draw together. Let us form a vessel to catch the dew of heaven. Let us rise up into that holy place of meeting and gather there with the companions of the light. Let the veil of heaven be drawn back. Hear this. Malkut Yeso, Hod Netza Tiferet, Gevurah Hesed, Bina Chokmah Keter. Lord, Thou art the living Almighty. Thou art Yahweh Elohim, the Holy One. Thou art, I am that I am. If it be Thy will, let Thy Holy Spirit descend upon us this day, that we may know Thy presence.
From Thee comes all grace.
So, the topic, the mystic in the marketplace. What is a mystic? To us, in this school, is someone who seeks to know the Holy One, to have a relationship with the Holy One. The source, you can see, yes, here. This is where the divine enters into the world, into the existence at this point. So to us, the mystic seeks to enter into commune with the Holy One. Now, we have there the task of the trained Kabbalist and what they do. That person, he or she, is that link between heaven, between the divine, heaven, and earth. That is what the capacity of a human being. And when we say the mystic, what do we mean? Well, I can only speak from my experience because I'm an aspirant to know God. Example, I was doing a walking meditation in our area, holding one of the names of God in contemplation as I walked. As I'm walking, a guy comes out of his house and he's startled by me walking fully focused. As he steps out, I realize he jumps back and I say to him, sorry, how are you? And he said, I'm good. And I said to him, may you continue to be good. He replied, God be with you. And I looked and I said, here am I contemplating the Holy One, and here am I being blessed by someone in the street. So I responded to him, and God be with you too. And I continued my walking meditation. As I continued, a voice deep in me, and if we know our tree here from Tiferet, the spiritual self, the voice said, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know Ehyeh. That's the word in Hebrew, I am. So I shifted from contemplation to holding that stillness. And it was intriguing to observe how things came into my psyche that tried to pull me off of that course. But I held it until I came back home and I came down the tree and I came into the home. So that's one way the aspirant is seeking. Another example, and I'll stop after this one. Went up to the shop, the local shop here, and there was a guy down at the far end in the fridge. And as I was walking, I realized that, hang on, he's doing something suspicious. And he turned as he put the beer, the third bottle, down in his coat. And he was a black guy. And he turned and he saw me. And because we had that sameness, he fixed it properly to walk out of the shop. And I looked at him. And he looked, and I just shook my head. And he walked out. The Kabbalist, I didn't have to shout and jump up and say, that guy is nicking your stuff. But he knew that he was observed. And just by shaking my head and saying, that's not right, he now takes that away with him. So what the mystic in the marketplace is doing is trying to be awake and present in the now, seeking to be in tune with the will of the One as we live life. And that is what I observed from Warren. So here we have the path of unification, and I trust you've read it. So what is God? Well, in Hebrew it says that God is ayin, no thing. Not nothing, but no thing. Because if I said to you, what are you doing? You said nothing. I have a concept of, oh, he's doing nothing. But if I said no thing, what are you doing? No, you'd wonder. So for the Holy One, one of the names is ayin, no thing. The other, En Sof, absolute all. everything. So the Holy One is no thing on the one hand, which is the transcendent, and absolute all in Sof, everything. But the teaching says, but God wished to behold God. So from within the Ein Sof came a withdrawal. It withdrew itself to bring forth a point, a void, into which the Ein Sof or the endless light of will projected itself in 10 stages. It set itself up as this, the lightning flash. This is the way it is known to us. And when we look at the lightning flash, we see that it starts from equilibrium, and then it goes to the dynamic, and then to the structure. So we have from the equilibrium, stillness, Hokmah, the wisdom, dynamic, Bina, structure, understanding, and down through the world, through Hesed, Gevura, Tiferet, beauty, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and finally at Malkut. So we have the 10 Sefirot, or the 10 lights. Within this, we have 4 levels within the single tree, 22 paths, 12 triads, and there are 4 levels within. The physical, where's the arrow? Yeah, there it is. Lost it. The physical level here, the 4 levels within the single tree, the physical, the psychological, the spiritual, and the contact with the source. 4 levels. Moving on. Okay. We have the names. This is the first world that was brought forth into existence. This world is called Azalut. It's the place of the name, the world of the name, the divine realm. With the divine names from Ehyeh, Yahweh, Elohim, right down to Adonai. This world is a world of pure consciousness. This is Adam Kadmon, the primordial being. And tradition says that we are all sparks of this being. So in each human being, there is this spark of the divine. So as an old friend of ours said, we are divine beings because we've come from divinity, seeking to be human because of where we are on earth. But the divinity is inherent in every human being, in everything really. So here we have the world of pure consciousness, Azalut. The word Azalut means to stand near, because this world is the nearest to the absolute, which is beyond existence. So far, I've spoken of the oral tradition, because the Bible, I'll have to just turn the sound off for a minute. The Bible begins with creation. Boom. Creation. What I have spoken about just now is not written, is what is part of the oral tradition. Creation is where the Bible starts. In the beginning, God created. And we have the separation. So from pure consciousness, we have the separation of day and night. We have the firmament. We have on the third day, the dry land, trees and herbs. On the 4th day, the celestial lights. On the 5th day, the fish and the fowl. On the 6th day, the beasts of the field, creeping things, and Adam. And on the 7th day, the Holy One rested. So in this world of creation, the laws are one removed. So it is under law. story in terms of creation, the fall. And this story demonstrates a principle within the teaching, a fundamental principle. The story goes that when the Holy One said to Lucifer, the bearer of light, that he was bringing forth Adam, and remember, the archangels were created on the 5th day, Adam was created on the 6th day. It is said that the archangels had free will. And Lucifer, the bearer of light, was jealous of whom Adam was. So the story goes that the Holy One said to them, name the animals. And because Adam is not of creation, is not a created being, but a divine being, in other words, from the world above, he has the capacity to name, which Lucifer, a created being, could not. So when the animals were brought forth and Adam said, let's say cow or goat or sheep, Lucifer could not. And as such, he was humiliated. Notice, humiliation. And it is said that he was cast out of heaven and took 1/3 of the heavenly hosts with him. So here we have creation, and here we have creation coming out of divinity. Here we have the names of the archangels, and the same laws that operate at this level operate here in this world, but at a different level. So here we have two worlds, pure consciousness and creation, the start. And in creation, it's the world of ideas. And if we look at, we said, think of a tree, that's the idea. But in the world, the next world, the world of formation, we have the different forms of trees. So the idea is in Bria, in the world of the spiritual world, and the forms that the tree takes is in Yetzirah. So you have the oak tree, the willow, the birch, etc. And that's important because the next world is the world of forms, the world of Yetzirah, the psychological world. And in this world, we have the same laws again, the same rules that are above, but at a lower level. So while in absolute pure consciousness, in creation, we have greater law, and then you come down into the world of the psyche, the psychological world, the Yetzirah, which it has even greater law. So it's much more intense. And this is the world, while this one, the blue world is the world of the archangels, this is the world of the angels. And here we have it coming out there, so we just have it at the side. And we see the Sephirah and their names and the same rules at a different level. And then we have the story in Yetzirah. Because as we know, the story of Adam, the world of absolute is androgynous, neither male nor female. The world of Bria is also androgynous, the world of the spirit, neither male or female. But it says male and female created he, them. So there's the potential of male and female in the world of spirit, in the world of creation. And then in the world of formation, we have Adam and Eve, male and female. And there they lived in paradise, we are told. And there are two trees in paradise, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life. There it is. Now, if we look at Jacob's ladder, here, we see the tree of knowledge there, and the tree of life here. The tree of life corresponds to the world of Absolute. The tree of knowledge is of the Briatic, the spiritual world. The tree of knowledge of good and evil. So the Holy One set them up, says to them, do not eat of this fruit, the fruit of this tree, but they have choice. And as such, with choice, they chose to eat. Choices have consequences. As a consequence of what they did, the teaching says that they were cast out of heaven and given coats of skin, which the Holy One had prepared for them. So here we have Gabriel with the sword, being cast out of paradise. And if we put it on the tree, and this is where Warren was, we have on the tree, we have upper paradise. This is where Adam and Eve were. This is upper Yetzirah, lower Bria. And we have lower paradise here. So there they were in this upper realm, and they made the choice of eating of the fruit of the tree of good and evil. And as such, they were cast down into this world, the lower world here, Yetzirah and Asiyah. And they were given coats of skin that the Holy One had prepared for them. Now, it said the Holy One in its mercy sent Archangel Ratziel with the book of secrets. In other words, a teaching in which they may regain heaven. So the Holy One in its mercy gives the return ticket, but this time they have to work for it. They have to work to attain heaven, upper paradise, and beyond. So here they are, Adam and Eve, the coats of skin that were prepared for them. And then we have the descent, the human psychology into an animal body. So there it is in the coat of skin, human attributes, a spark of the divine, clothed in a spirit, given a form, male or female, and in a body in manifestation. So here we are, the four levels. A human being on earth, every human being, contains these four levels within them: the physical, the psychological, the spiritual, and they have the spark of the divine. So as I said earlier, the divinity is there. There are the four levels, Adam Kadmon. And here we have the fifth tree, from Keter to Malkut, running down the fifth great tree. And this tree is what Warren and his companions discovered. Pre-1970, the only tree around was this one. This was the tree. This is what everyone studied. But it hinted on four levels. And he, in the school he was at, with Glyn Davis, and 3 or 4 others, they cut out these trees and were trying to see how they could get the 4 levels. And this is what Warren said to me. He was in the group and they were just trying to see how it would fit. And he said, when they put it together and they counted 1, 2, and he saw the 10, he said, I knew what my job was. I had to fill out the psychology, which is this world here, the psychological world. He had to fill it out. And this was his life work, the filling out of the tree, of Jacob's ladder. So our main teaching tool in the school is this ladder. Quickly to add, death. At death, we leave the body. Here is the silver cord that is said. The body goes back earth to earth. And there it is. This is the realm of the soul, the spirit, and the divine. That connection, the soul is eternal, it's said. So we die, we drop off the coat of skin, we go back, tradition says, to the treasure house of souls, where we review our lives, and then we are sent back into the world, given a new coat of skin to carry on our journey. So what we have is creation coming down, and we, humanity, evolving, returning. We are on the evolutionary journey through lifetimes. But we need a teaching. And there is Jacob in the dream and seeing the ladder with people ascending, with angels ascending and descending. And this is Jacob's ladder, that we ascend and descend as we practice. We need a teaching, a complete teaching, and in most of the major world religions, there is that complete teaching. And there's the pilgrim, the seeker after truth, walking the maze of life, holding the staff of knowledge, and there's the teaching. And notice the pitfalls on the way. But they hold on to the teaching as they make their way to paradise. And there's the Kabbalist, standing on earth, awake physically, psychologically present, seeking to be in tune with the will of the one. Thank you.
Kurt has just given a general view of all the worlds.
I think the key for me was to try to get across the idea of the 4 levels within existence. I mean, time is short and I know I whistled through it, but anyway.
So now we will go on to, I'll just look in greater detail at the journey of the soul. So let's do, I've got to, bear with me when I just get this. Yeah. So here we're back. What we're going to focus on in this part is the human aspect. What does it mean as a human being to descend through the world? And this ladder that Warren did shows all the different levels: the young souls, incarnate humanity, developing souls, mature souls, evolving spirits, with the current Messiah, self-realized spirits. This is the whole human condition, from the very lowest to the highest. The tree and the ladder has as Kurt said, the 2 pillars, based in unity. It's all to do with the one unified existence. Everything is one. In the diversity, there are the 2 pillars. And then there's the 3rd pillar, which is the column of consciousness that runs through the whole of existence, from I am at the top to the I am at the bottom. So the presence of the Holy One, of that light, is throughout the whole of existence, into every atom. These are the basic principles that I was looking at. It takes a little time because these are very deep. You just get a sense of the kingdom, the foundation. Reverberation, it's the thinking processes. The eternally repeating is the cycles that repeat and repeat and repeat. Here at Tiferet is beauty, goodness, and truth. This is where we find our true selves, find out who we really are. And this here is the soul. These 3, the triads of the soul, where we have to make our fateful decisions in life. Knowledge comes through from the other levels, and we have understanding and wisdom and the crown. And as Kurt showed before, we put this in because it's one of Warren's calligraphies of the the holy names of God, Yod, He, Vav, He, the world of pure light, pure consciousness, eternal. Then we come into the world of creation. Very difficult to talk about creation in the sense that it is vast, it's cosmic. Plato's world of ideas, so that if one considers before you do a work of art or write a book, there's a seminal idea that comes before it even takes form or before you even pick up a pencil or pen or a paintbrush. It's the seminal idea at the beginning of every creative work of art. And as Warren often said, existence is the work of art of the Holy One. It truly is, if we look deeper into creation, the extraordinary, extraordinary diversity and beauty of the Holy One's creation. We come through that world of the spirit, which is transpersonal, beyond the personal, cosmic. And we come into the personal world of our psychological, this is our psyches, our souls. And this is a marvelous tree that Warren did, really putting all the different aspects of our inner world onto this tree. We have our bodies here. We have thinking, feeling, and action, and the ego, which is our identity in the world, a very important foundation in the world. The two columns here of action, and then we have the world of emotion and the soul, which is often likened to a ship sailing on the waters of emotion. This whole level is emotional here. And then we come to the intellectual level, transpersonal consciousness, with the intellect and the consciousness of the divine here at the top. Now it is said, and this comes in many traditions, that before we come and incarnate, our souls are given a sense of the life to come. I've certainly found it in African traditions, that it is though it is unrolled before you, just before you are born. You see the general trend of your life, perhaps some of the people you may meet. But of course we forget that, and as soon as the first breath is taken, all that is forgotten. But there are intimations in life, sometimes we remember certain things, we meet certain people, and in that way there's a sense that we've been here before, that we know. Now there is in Kabbalah the doctrine of coming back again. One life is so short. It's not in some traditions, but it has been there always in Kabbalah. Because one life is really impossible to deal with all the things that we need to. So it's, I think, the Romanized Arabic word for it is to change one's shirt. And as Kurt demonstrated in the last show, it's only the body that drops off. Everything else remains. So we have this sense of who we are before we're born, then we forget. But here, from conception all the way down to birth, this is the essence that we bring in with us. We carry this. Every child that is born carries their essence. There's the life force and the life form. Here we have the electromagnetic field. And here is the cell multiplication and the cell differentiation, which is where in the womb these different processes are carrying on. The central nervous system, and then we have vital circulations, monitoring systems, the autonomic nervous system, skin, bone, and skeleton, and then finally we're born with all this process which has been taking place within the womb. Miraculous. And every one of us is made from, in the physical world, from the atoms of life. Trillions of us apparently in our bodies. And yet each one is an eating, breathing, excreting, propagating and dying cell within us. So the Holy One exists at this point, in this time, from the unity into the diversity of trillions of cells. There is the light of life. And one of the names of God, it says, or the names of God are known as the seed of existence. And here we have the seed of life that is within each of us. This is how we all started, within a womb. This miraculous piece of equipment that we're issued as we come into life. And it's our responsibility to take care of it. It allows us to walk the earth, allows us to live our lives physically. The exact time of our birth is very finely tuned. Where we come, who we come to. There's nothing random. You hear the you see the astrologers behind here. They're looking at the stars. They're seeing the time of this child's birth. And astrology is a form of psychology. Warren used to say, which I rather like, that it was your end of term report from your last life. And you bring in certain qualities, certain things that need to be refined, be looked at, be further worked on. The family you come into is very important, who your father and mother is, who your siblings are. It's all part of the work of this lifetime. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's very difficult. So here's the child. Here they are, just born. And the light of the soul shines in their eyes. The body may change. The soul you see in a child's eyes and in an adult's eyes. It remains for their life. It is said that the eyes are the window of the soul, windows of the soul. And this little being has just arrived, but has all four worlds in potential within. Every single child that is born is the face of God, and all four worlds are in existence within them. The choices in their life is where they will take them, in what direction they will go. And the body is just not what we see as the limits of our physicality. As we know, the body is a very subtle piece of mechanism filled with life. This is a drawing, Chinese, I think it is, at the subtle level and the chakras. But here again, it's representing the fact that all the four worlds are in existence within this physical being of ours. And the subtle level grows out a bit beyond our physical world, physical body. And here we have, from birth to death, this physicality. These are Leonardo da Vinci drawings. It shows that beginning and end. And our bodies are really made from stardust. And at the end of time, that physicality drops away and is dust to dust. But life continues. So here, the opposite way, we have our incarnation and our infancy, childhood, youth, We have the prime of our life, the self-confidence, early middle age, late middle age, early old age, late old age, and death, with all the various phases that we go through in that time. Here's a Frida Kahlo picture, but it depicts this little being that's just arrived into a family. It can be very complex, very difficult, or it can be very blessed life, good parents. It all depends on what we have to learn, and I often say that in life, it's how we perceive things and how we use the circumstances we've got, not to become victims of circumstance, but to use life and to work with it. So here, this family, we don't know who all these people are, but each of us have our family ancestors, those who've gone before and those who are now, and perhaps we're becoming one of the elders of our family now, grandchildren. And there's a lot to learn, and everything is nothing happens, as I said, by random, so that there's a purpose in each of the families we come into. In Africa, a child is born and really honored as part of the whole community. A community consists of the living, the yet to be born, and the living dead, who are those who have died but are still in living memory. And this is the whole community, because the boundary between the worlds is much less. So a child comes in with memories and is respected in that family into which they're born. And here one of the elders is blessing the child. So these ceremonies in life are very important. And then there is the conditioning that we come into. And this is all a path we have to take, each one of us. Every child is conditioned into whatever culture they are. This one happens to be Jewish. Here we have a madrasa. What we learn in childhood stays with us for the rest of our life. And here we have a child with a wise elder who is opening their eyes to the bigger picture, opening their eyes to other worlds which children naturally have within them. And this is the passage through all the worlds. A child who has those memories, who have that sense of other worlds within them. In trying to incarnate, the world is a very intense place. There's so much to learn. There's so much to incorporate into one's being as a child. And yet the other worlds are very present. And they're more present often in children who remember than in adults. Then we have the stage in life of the ego, of youth, me and mine. And this is important because it's building a foundation in life. But this is the story of Narcissus, who only saw his own reflection in the water. And that is a hallmark of youth, of me and mine, and that's all that matters. Unfortunately, it often continues on into life, as we see that very many people continue that through the whole of life, that everything is me and mine without a sense of other. But usually there is the growing into oneself, which happens here. Within life, there are all the acceptable expressions and actions and punishments and rewards. But here is our true self, who knows. Deep down, we know who we are, but it takes time to find with the density of and the gravity of life around us. We have a choice as to whether to stay asleep, to remain in the comfort of our unconsciousness, which to many is very appealing. It's very tough growing up and waking up. And here is one who has decided to explore, to grow, to look further, to find the Holy One within. And each generation has opportunities for people to do this. But on the way, we need to find a teacher. And in this case, it's a false teacher, of which there are very many, of which the money, power, and sex and spiritual pride comes in the way. They're often very much to do with image. They're shrewd, they're amoral, ruthless and careless, manipulative, deluded. And I have to say, I've come across such people, and it's been a very salutary lesson to learn. Because learning what not to do is just as important as learning what to do. Here is someone of the world, this character here, his profession. But here they are at the pinnacle, and they know there's more. And they look for a teacher with wings. In other words, that represents someone who has experience of the upper worlds, of the inner worlds, who knows that, and is able to pass on to them. So each time we learn something, we're able to pass on. This teacher gives hope, has charity, and possesses faith. They are understanding and wise. And there is that quality about these people. On our journey, we are fed by manna, by the dew of heaven. And in this picture, it really indicates that even though we're asleep or unconscious, that dew of heaven comes through, that providence. Now, the world of creation is known as the world of timing and providence. And that is demonstrated so clearly, I have found in life, that things happen in their own time. We can't make things happen if it's not the right time. And the providence of grace, it doesn't mean to say it's always good stuff. Often it's the tough times that we've learnt the most from. Another aspect of becoming ourselves is putting down the burdens from the past, not carrying such heavy loads. Our conditioning has to be dealt with, where we came from. All of this has to be dealt with in life. It doesn't just happen. To be free, to be ourselves, we have to leave home and find our true self. We have basic needs in life. In order to become an individual, here we have ordinary people. And each person has talents and drives. But when we become an individual, we have certain constraints and opportunities in order to make the decisions that determine our fate. And to become a true individual, that self-realization comes with experience and vision. And then we find fulfillment, the true fulfillment that doesn't come from the world. If we can find our purpose in life, that is true fulfillment. If we know why we were brought forth, created, formed, and made, then we truly know our purpose. But there are times when we go through dark nights of the soul. All the great mystics talk about this period in time, the dark night of the soul. It's very deep, but it's necessary for our growth. It reflects back the shadow side, the dark side of ourselves, which is all part of our individuality. We have then these two impostors. We have the devil on our left shoulder and the angel on our right. And there's this constant battle within our souls. These are the choices and the decisions we have to make in life. And then there are the moments when we have to forgive or be forgiven. This is a picture from the prodigal son, the story in the Bible when of two sons, one stayed at home and the other went off to make their fortune and landed in very difficult circumstances in with the pigs and had a turning point. And this I find so often in life, that people can go so far and it gets very bad, and then the return home. And this story's always touched me, because that returning is the returning to ourselves. There are those things in the past which are very painful and deep. And here again, it is part of becoming a mystic to deal with this. Remorse, perhaps. But these are the parts of ourselves that rear their heads at certain points in life. But here is the pilgrim following on Sophia in wisdom's steps. So we follow in the steps of those who've gone before, that give us the wisdom. The teachings are passed on from generation to generation. We thank God that we have the teachings to follow, to guide us. Here is a picture of Theosebia. She lived in 4th century Egypt. She was an alchemist. She lived in Panopolis, I think is how you pronounce it, which was where Dul-Nun lived. This is a beautiful picture because it shows her in two different states, her soul and her spirit, where she becomes one, where the unity of herself, of her true self. And we have those aspects of ourselves within. We have our true self. And it's being able to make contact, being able to really know who we are and unify our whole being. It's the purpose of this inner work. As we grow and begin to climb through the halls of heaven, we can't touch on those today because there isn't time, but there are so many descriptions of the halls of heaven. There's Rabbi Akiba. There was Santa Teresa, who describes them in great detail. There was another one I found in the Sufi tradition, but describing the different halls of heaven that we can ascend to the divine due, to be in union with our Creator, the Holy One. And part of this journey is being able to be with companions in a school of the soul. And that upper room doesn't just exist on earth here with our companions where we might meet. It's an upper room in our souls, a different level. And we can join with people all over the world in this room of the soul. This is the place where we can learn, where we get to know ourselves. And it's vital to be able to learn with other people. We cannot do it on our own. We need companions. And here is an El Greco picture of Elizabeth and Mary. And it's just how important companions are on this path. We need that reflection back. We need to know ourselves through others and to know ourselves for ourselves. And in all schools of the soul, there are always the three ways: the way of action, the way of devotion, and the way of contemplation. And these are all important. Some schools do much more in the way of contemplation and some more of action. But this is in the world. These are older pictures, but these are the ways in the world in which we refine in order to be in the marketplace of life, in order to perform, in order to be present. Until the moment when we have our own deep inner experience of the one, of the light. It can happen at any time, in any place. It can happen many times. It's touching the hem of the garment of the Holy One. And it is knowing, truly knowing who we really are. It is a gift. And here we have Angel Gabriel appearing to Muhammad. These mystical moments, they happen to the great ones, but they can also happen with us as we have, as our birthright, access through all the world. And as we grow on, to be given a glimpse into creation and into the Holy One. The very last one is just the Moses at the burning bush with the eye of the Holy One watching. And it is for us to be the eyes and the Holy Ones in the world, the eyes and ears of the Holy One, to be the senses of the Holy One on earth. This is where the action is, and this is where we grow. This is where we know. That's it.
Well, thank you very much. An awful lot for us to ponder on in that. I have a raised hand from Richard Twinch.
Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Joe, for beautiful talks, which is much to ponder on. My point I just wanted to make is just ask a question at the end of, I can find my note. At the end of Joe's talk, you said, Joe, which I thought was beautiful. What you said was really struck me. is to know ourselves through ourselves, and is to know, in order to know ourselves through ourselves, we need to know ourselves and others, or the other way around. In other words, the knowing of ourselves is linked to the knowing of others. And I was just, my question mark was to do with, is this what service is, really, true service is?
Very much. And looking at as I observe the tree and the ladder, it's so much to do with relationship. It's relationship with us and the Holy One, with us and others, and us and ourselves. But as you say, if we're really able to see that, if we're able to see that relationship, it truly is service. Yes, indeed, Richard. Yeah. Brought up. Thank you for being there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We have something in the chat. How do mental illnesses such as bipolarity or depression figure into this? Some people suffer so greatly that they take their own lives.
Well, this subject of such things as mental illness, it's very real, and it's very, as we know in this day and age, it's very prevalent. And we're looking at the world of the psyche. We're looking at this world, really, which is the psychological world.
We're looking at the world of the psyche, the world of the soul. And as such, here we have the soul and the choices that have been made. And when you look at people who have come in with ailments, I mean, our good friend, their son was starved of oxygen at birth, and he is deaf mute, and paraplegic. He cannot walk properly. And you look at him, and you ask why. What has happened that he is like this, or someone is bipolar, or whatever ailment? And then you ask the other question: how come I'm so lucky? So you have that. On the one hand, you look and you say, and you feel, but on the other hand, you look at yourself and you say, what have I done to be so lucky? I thank God for where I am, but I can feel that empathy in terms of the soul for that person. And that is their journey. And when I look at our good friend whose son is this deaf mute, and what they have done and the work they have done to help and support not only him, but others like him, you realize that that is serving a purpose because of what his parents are doing and others are doing to support. So they are in service. So unless we know the individual person and their circumstance, we can't really say why.
The psychological world is a world, a very watery world of emotion, and the bipolar and mental illness is an imbalance, because all disease is some kind of imbalance in the psyche or the body. And the key is to see what the imbalance is. It takes years. It might not happen, and in some cases, because I have friends who have taken their own lives, and it's tragic. And it's not an easy subject to look at or to examine, because it seems so final and so tragic. But in the cases, I can only speak from my own experience. It's a total loss of meaning, and in life, that sense of a meaning, of being able to live life knowing that there is a purpose, there is a meaning, is so important. And if meaning is lost, then often lives can get very difficult. And one of the things that I was told years ago, and it's to do with changing attitudes, that instead of looking at why is this happening to me as a victim, you see it as why is this happening for me, in order to learn from in order to grow from, in order for it to be something that I can learn more about myself from, then it's worth it. And good things can come of the most disastrous situations. I've seen it many times. And each of us has our own cross to bear, or our own burden. Nobody is without something to carry in life. Nobody, because that's the work of this being on earth.
Just end on what John has said. When we look at the story, Adam and Eve, choice. The choices we make, as the man said, dictate the life you lead. And we make choices in life. And remember, we say that there's just not one life. It's a series of lives that we go through.
A gradual refinement,
Absolutely.
continuous refinement.
Thank you. We have a question from Milen Vasilev. What is happening with realized man in Kabbalah? Does he keep his individuality in one or other way, or is he totally absorbed in light?
We can only speak from, we can't speak from experience here. This is, but as in all mystical traditions, that fulfilling of our individuality, as I perceive it, and I can only say it's as I perceive it, has to be let go of. Perhaps we don't lose it, because as I understand it, this world of light, the divine world here, if there is a starting in innocence and filling up with experience, because people who are on the spiritual path, people who have a lot of experience in life, tend to be wiser if they learn from it. And often I say that for me, the greatest saints and sages are the ones who've been through the toughest time and seen the worst of life, who've been to the depths, because only then do you really know for yourself, because a true mystic is one who knows for themselves. And so that individuality is carried up through, but it has to be let go of, has to be dissolved, finally, into the life of the Holy One.
Thank you. We have Stephen Olende. He says, interesting hearing that Adam and Eve needed to be dressed in skin. So he says that does not survive into the Christian version.
Well, interestingly enough, in the Bible, it actually says coats of skin that were made for them, that was prepared. It's a direct quote. If you look at the Bible, you will see that. So we have a soul inhabiting a body, and at death, the body drops out. The soul carries on because it's eternal. So it's there in the Bible. And that's our source.
Okay. I think I'll move on to David Hornsby. I'll read the question, but perhaps you might want to add to it what you put in the chat. I have a question about how mercy, grace, praise, and forgiveness are positioned on the tree relative to anger, disgrace, judgment, and condemnation. Are they even on an equivalent level? Doesn't the former category so far outweigh the latter as to be on a whole other level?
Each of these sephira has a shadow side that exists at the same time as it is said at the beginning, when the Holy One created, it was good. It says it was good. Yeah, very good. It was very good.
So,
the choices of humans allows the other side to come in. And we have to have choice. Otherwise, how would we find out anything? If everything was balanced and pure and beautiful, we don't learn anything. So unless there's a shadow side, so each one of these has the shadow side within it.
Yeah, I guess my question is perhaps more about how one moves up and down. You know, the qualities that help one to in the connection between the top and the bottom of the tree, that enable one to progress rather than being in a sort of in comparison, as it were. But you know, where the relief is in these choices.
Kabbalah, the central column is the column of consciousness.
Yes.
These sephirot are the tools of consciousness. So let us look at, you say a centered tiferet at yourself, and you have justice and mercy. Those are the two. Those are truly human qualities, but they're principles. And how do you integrate it in yourself? So, example, a child is naughty at school or at home or wherever it is. You use Gevura, talking to them. Now you can use Gevura in talking to them. Oh, whap. For me, it was whap behind the head from my parents, the Gevura. And in terms of the hairstyle, well, you listened, what is it? Spare the rod and spoil the child. So I was brought up with the rod. That was there, and that is how it was. Bringing up my children was different. And I was pointed out that to bring the hesed into it, the mercy. Joanna always said to me, and remember, my conditioning is Caribbean. Come into the work and have a different, get a different sense, a different behavior, a different conditioning based on principle. So that instead of backhand as my conditioning, my ego here, this is where I was brought up. As I come into myself, you recognize that the spoken word, and strangely enough, I'm teaching my little grandson right now. And there are times when I'm teaching him, he's 8, where I look at him and I think, good grief, in the Caribbean, I'd have gotten whacked for that. And I just talk to him. So it's about that balance in yourself, the Gevura and the Hesed. That is the key, the balance. And as I was been told by Joanna, don't sleep with anger in your heart. Try to resolve it before you go to bed. So here we have the Hesed. So it's these two that here, from the center, from the true self, you work. And as I said, these are tools of consciousness. Every sephirah is a tool of consciousness. As opposed to here, the ego, the foundation, and the self, the true self.
Thank you. We have a comment from Stephen Olende. He says, I am also aware of alchemy as a process of purification of the soul, though it seems the other trappings of the process get more focus from outside observers.
Well, the outer trappings are always the ones that people grab and see that, and they think, I mean, Kabbalah has suffered from that over the years hugely with all the complications. I mean, Warren's task was to clarify, to get back to the original, to get back to the classical, because all the other things like numerology and this and that all accrue round, and the same with alchemy, because at its root, all traditions have a call that is the one. We all go back to the one. It's the different forms that get so confusing, many different forms. But if the teaching is true, then it will always have at its core the one being.
Remember when I showed the tree of the spirit, and I showed one tree. That's the essence of tree. Then when it came down, we had the forms and we had all the multitude of trees. But it goes back to the one. From that one comes the many. And this is the world, Yetzirah, psychological world, is that world of forms.
There are many different ways of working. But if the truth is there, then that is always at the heart of every tradition, whichever way you choose to work. Some more contemplative and some more action and some more devotional.
So if I might make a personal comment before we when you seem to be describing, there's a feeling I got when I only met Warren Kenton on a few occasions. There was a sort of endeavour to sort of purify the tradition and remove what was really perhaps unnecessary or had a unnecessary to get to the essence of it. Would you?
Well, very much so. It's accrued, it's travelled thousands of years, and it's accrued a whole lot of stuff around it, baggage really, magic and all kinds of stuff that that people use Kabbalah for. But to go back, just tear away all the rubbish and go back to the original principles is very refreshing, I find. Like the same in any tradition, because you can, the principles of Kabbalah can really be applied anywhere, to anything. It can be applied to business and music and different religions, and it's just the pure principles, which is very refreshing.
It is indeed. Well, thank you. Perhaps it's we've overrun a bit. Perhaps it's time to bring things to a conclusion.
Could we just come down the tree, please?
Can we just come down
just
to finish?
All this to finish.
Yes, of course. Yes. Please.
Hear this, most gracious God. Thou art Yahweh Elohim, the Holy One. Thou art the living Almighty. Thou art the Shalom. Keter, Okma Bina. Esed Gevura Tiferet, Netzachot, Yesod, Malchut. Holy, holy, holy art thou, Lord God of hosts. Thy glory fills